President Minnis, or P. Mini, as I understand. Alex, where are you, Alex? Thank you for rekindling that feeling I had at the Republican National Convention after I followed Condoleezza Rice. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. Before I want to get into the commencement and offer a word of thanks, I've heard so many good things about Benedictine College. My friend, George Weigel, who spoke at last year's commencement, called me up and told me about this school. He said it was a community of faith and scholarship. He said you were a tight-knit yet broad-minded, small-sized yet big-hearted. And I've spent a little time here. I got to do P90X this morning with Matt Minnis and his friends. Got to do dinner with Archbishop Naumann, Bishop Brungart, Abbot James. I got to check out the river, the grotto, and I got to find out that at least 90% of the senior class had a problem with the beanies when they were freshmen, because that's how many people just stood up, because those are the ones who complained. You've made me feel at home. This is a special place. It's obvious. And you've done a great honor by being here, by getting this diploma. And I want to thank you for sharing this. As I've talked to some of you, I've been struck by some of the changes you've seen. You have a new abbot at St. Benedict's, and it's great to see one with dark hair. We've seen a new pope at St. Peter's, and you've seen the largest freshman class in Benedictine's history. So on this beautiful day, there are three things that are clear. You've been through a lot. Your parents have paid a lot. I think Alex made that one clear. And today, we celebrate your congratulations. Congratulations. Well, now that we've done with the important stuff, I guess it's time for my advice. Whenever I'm in this kind of situation, I usually ask myself, what do I know now that I wish I knew then? Well, sorry, life's not that easy. You can't just ask someone for the best shortcuts to take. You have to learn some lessons by living them. Those lessons tend to be the hardest, but also the most fulfilling. And often, they're lessons of faith. I've gathered from our conversations that you know quite a bit about this topic. You know very well that faith isn't a Christmas ornament. It's not something you save for a special occasion. It's something you live with and struggle with every day. That's why it's so frustrating and so comforting. It's always there. It's always there waiting for you. Sometimes the hardest part is finding your faith. It's finding out what you really believe. And as you know, because I've met a lot of the majors, philosophy isn't a book of answers, it's a search for wisdom. And my advice, in a nutshell, is to keep up the search. If you still have questions after 4 years of college, if you're not quite satisfied with the answers you have, discover for yourself what it is you really believe. That's enduring. Boil things down to basics. See how they add up. And if they don't add up, keep looking. That's why they call this a commencement, because there's no end to your spiritual and philosophical journey. But as you gain wisdom, you will find more often that you'll be making refinements to your views instead of big changes. And if you form your views this way, through discovery and debate, through deep thought and prayer, your moral code will be far more durable and rewarding. But as you develop that code, you have to live up to it. You have to put it into practice. As Catholics, we are meant to be in the world, not of the world. We are meant to take up the vocation that God has given us and to do it well. Several years ago, I remember driving around the plains of Kansas with my good friend Sam Brownback, coming through towns like Atchison, thinking about, as a young man, what to do in life. I decided that my vocation was to be public service. So today, I want to talk to you about my faith and my attempt to live up to it. I want to try to answer this question. How does a Catholic public servant apply Catholic social teaching? It's an important question. There are different ways to answer this question. So today, let me talk about two: our support for free enterprise and for strong communities. Now, good Catholics can disagree, and we do. That's the difficulty and the beauty of our faith. On some issues, the teaching is crystal clear. For instance, we always protect the sanctity of life. But on other issues, there's a broad arc of prudential judgment, and there's room for everybody. So I'm not going to stand here and vanquish some straw men erected for my position. I'm going to take on some straw men erected against our position. In short, what I hope to do is make the moral case for free enterprise. And in this effort, I speak only for myself, and I ask only for your consideration. Like yours, my faith and understanding is very personal, and it's very far from complete. It began when my dad died. I was 16. It was really tough on our family. It was very tough on me. I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school, served as an altar boy for many years. I thought I had it all figured out. But when something like that happens to you in your life at a young age, it makes you question everything. So at a young age, I started a lengthy search for answers. I read everything I could get my hands on. Freud to C.S. Lewis, from Hegel to Hayek, from Aristotle to Aquinas, and everything you can imagine in between. In fact, you may have heard that I enjoyed the work of a certain female author whose books were monuments to the idea that men and women should be true to their passions, even in the face of relentless social pressure to conform. It's true. I was, and I remain, a huge fan of the Twilight Saga. That actually is a joke. It's not an Alexander joke, but it's a joke. You know, after I was elected to Congress, I was young, and I had to wrestle with many issues, both as a representative of Wisconsin and as a Catholic. And as I wrestled with my views, I kept noticing two themes in my beliefs, both of which come from Catholic social teaching: solidarity and subsidiarity. That sounds kind of intimidating, right? It's really quite simple. Solidarity is this belief that we are all in this together, so we must be good to one another. We must be generous with our love, and we must withhold it from no one. And when we write the laws of our nation, we must never lose sight of our primary purpose, the common good. Subsidiarity, it's like federalism. It's the belief that every part of our country adds to the whole. But for the whole to benefit, every part must be free to do its work on its own terms. Yes, government must do some things, but it can't do everything. It shouldn't assume other people's roles, and it shouldn't tell them how to do their work. The people closest to the problem are the most likely to solve it. You know why? Because they know the community the best. We see this principle in the First Amendment. Religious communities do great things in our country. They care for the poor, the hungry, and the sick. And they do this work in their own unique way, guided by their conscience and their beliefs. That is why I strongly support, and we all must support, measures to protect religious liberty. Catholic institutions, like colleges, hospitals, and social agencies, should be free to do their work according to their moral standards. It's essential to our society, and it's essential to subsidiarity. You know, over the years, we've been blessed to hear from 3 popes who make the case for these principles. It's a pretty amazing time to be alive and to be a Catholic. Take John Paul II. He rallied the Polish people against the Soviet Union. He said, in effect, that communism was wrong. There was something beyond this world, and that we knew it. There was a God, and we were his children. And by speaking the truth, he electrified the Polish nation, 36 million strong. Not with the promise of wealth, but a simple call: do not be afraid. He showed solidarity with the Polish people, and he freed them from fear. Pope Benedict XVI warned us about another danger. I remember this Mass when he said it like it was yesterday. which he called the dictatorship of relativism. Archbishop Naumann gave a great homily on this topic yesterday. It's the belief that there's no right or wrong, that every person is a law unto herself, and it can't stand the truth because the truth is self-confident and self-sustaining. So it snuffs it out. It burns books. It censors the press. Everything's relative. But as St. Thomas Aquinas once wrote, all men are forced to give their assent to reason. Pope Benedict revived interest in his teachings. And just as his predecessor, Pope John Paul, freed Poland from fear, Pope Benedict taught us how to protect the world from falsehood. These two popes showed solidarity with the oppressed. And now, today, Pope Francis is showing solidarity with the poor, as the church has done for 2,000 years. He's breathing new life into the fight against poverty. He's renewing our commitment to help the least among us. He has a chance to lift this dialogue to a much higher level. And I hope that he will heal the divisions between the so-called Catholic left and the so-called Catholic right, so that all may be one in Christ. Because it is the spiritually impoverished who need the most help. You know, Pope Francis calls the tyranny of relativism the spiritual poverty in our time. And it afflicts rich countries worst of all, including our own. To truly help the poor, we have to help the whole person, not just the material needs, but the spiritual ones too. The fact is, government can't give this help because the law is blind. It treats everyone the same. And even though we are all equal, we're not all the same. We have different needs. Only people can meet these needs. And though most people who serve in government are hardworking, they can only do so much. They can't give us the personal attention that we need. So we need to look for people outside of government. And we will find them in our communities. I just am taken by the missions that you've done here as students here at Benedictine. In our churches, in our schools, in our nonprofits, our neighborhoods, in our friends, in our families. You know what academics call this? Mediating institutions. In the end, it's just people. People working together to help other people. And government must not push them out. It must not crowd out society. It must instead support them. It must show these groups that we are going to allow them to address our needs. It must expand this space for society, that middle ground between the person and their government. And one of the best examples of a partnership like this is the free enterprise system. Free enterprise is an example of that second principle, subsidiarity. It allows each person to contribute to society. It allows them to discover their talents and to pursue their dreams, because when they do, they add to the common good. They create jobs. They save lives. They feed people. They add to the store of knowledge. And most importantly, free enterprise gives us the resources to care for ourselves and to care for others. It helps to ease human suffering. You know, we know the power of free people working together. We see it most clearly when it's absent. I want to borrow an example from Father Robert Sirico. Look at a picture of the world at night. Just go on Google Earth and look at the satellite photo of the world at night. You will see light across this globe, except in one part, the northern half of the Korean peninsula. In North Korea, there is only one point of light, Poinang, the capital, where the elite live. There is no free enterprise in that country. People aren't allowed to buy or sell, to trade or bargain, to build or create, and they suffer immensely because of it. They're trapped in darkness. So, why is there such resistance to free enterprise? It's the old problem of greed. The critics say nothing good comes from commerce. It's all pinstripes and no principle. Sure, the free enterprise makes more stuff, they argue, but it relies on greed, on people pursuing their self-interest. And isn't the love of money the root of all evil, or something to that effect? Look, many people want the chance to get ahead. And to get ahead in a free economy, they must serve the needs of society. At some level, we ask ourselves, how can I make ends meet? But the successful ask a better question. What's something people need? Voluntary exchange is an act of good faith. It gives the buyer a good in exchange for something of equal value. It creates a culture of personal responsibility and goodwill. To attract customers, you have to be trustworthy. To attract workers, you have to treat them with dignity. Free enterprise helps the workers themselves because work gives people more than a paycheck. It gives them a sense of pride, a sense of purpose. It makes them part of their communities. And when we share our gifts with other people, we show solidarity with one another. If farmers didn't harvest, people would go hungry. If doctors and nurses didn't practice, the sick would go untreated. We don't think of ourselves as greedy, even though we're taking part in the economy. And we shouldn't, because we're working to help our families. We're helping to put food on the table, to pay for our education, to save for retirement. Yes, we must guard against greed. But you know what? Greed's always going to be with us. So our job is to limit its power. Free enterprise doesn't reward greed. It rewards value, because competition checks greed. And there's no greater opportunity for greed than government cronyism. Greed knows how to exploit the pages of regulations. It knows how to navigate the halls of power. So if we're concerned about greed, we shouldn't give it more opportunities to grow. No, money is not everything. Wealth, it's a means to an end. And the end isn't a full bank account. The end is a good life, one lived in accordance with God. And to live a truly good life, we must go beyond ourselves. We must minister to the poor and to the sick. We can't outsource that job. Concern for the poor does not demand faith in big government. It demands something more from each and every one of us. If we continue to believe that the war on poverty is primarily a government responsibility, then we will continue to weaken our communities. We will drift further apart as a people. As Catholics, we know that happiness cannot be bought or sold. It can't be legislated. Earning your just rewards from achievement and hard work promotes human flourishing and happiness. It brings fulfillment both to yourself and to others. In short, we find happiness only in the thrill of accomplishment, in the comfort of community, and in communion with God. This is how solidarity and subsidiarity work together. They create a society that serves the poor. They create healthy communities by building healthy relationships. And on this philosophy, from this beachhead, we can fight back the growth of relativism. That is what good Catholics must do in this time and day and age. This is our charge. Well, that's my take. This individual's person in public office, that's my take on this aspect of Catholic social teaching. As you can see, it's not a step-by-step guide. It's a philosophy. It grounds you in certain principles. In a culture that stresses the I, the church stresses the we. In a culture that liberates the passions, the church shows us that discipline really is what gets you freedom. And in a world where relativism threatens the weak, the church works to protect the poor and the powerless. These are the truths that anchor Catholic social teaching. They offer you guidance as you discover God's plan for you. Your task is to consider that guidance as you continue your search for wisdom. This is the advice that I plan on giving my own kids. Naturally, I hope they take my own point of view. That's pretty much how most parents feel. But you can't be secure in your beliefs until you know how they stack up against others. So my advice is keep searching, keep questioning, make it stronger. And when you need a port of call, when you come full circle, when you really know it, I hope you will take comfort in the church just as I have. And when you do, you will know for certain that you're there to stay. The reason I say it this way is our Catholic faith has endured for thousands of years for a reason. The world offers many challenges, You're entering into that. Our legacy will endure if you can handle those challenges, if you're ready for it. Here at Benedictine, you're off to a great start. I wish you continued success in your path. And whether you walk on the left side of the street, or whether you walk on the right side of the street, or whether you walk the straight and narrow, or if you take the scenic route, I hope that you will always walk with God. Thank you very much. Thank you.